Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the X-Files. This is David, and the episode we're covering tonight is the fourth episode of the first season, Conduit. We'll just jump right into this, because this doesn't really have a Monster of the Week. Even though it kind of is a Monster of the Week episode, it's more of a development of Fox Mulder and his personality. You find out some more about his backstory and why he's motivated the way he is. Suffice to say, the opening stinger is there's this campground and there's some loons cooing in the background, and they're at Lake Ogoboji National Park, and there's a flash of light, and this woman's son comes running to the door as she tries to open the door, and it's too hot, so she gets an oven mitt, opens the door, and they're in a trailer or a camper, something along those lines. I think it's supposed to be a camper or an RV. One of those. Anyway, and she can't open the door. She opens the door with the oven mitt. She gets an oven mitt, opens the door. Son's out there. She says that she's missing, or Ruby's missing, and cut to credits. Basically, cut to the opening. So, meanwhile, Scully is brought in to not analyze, but because one of the division chiefs has had a weird request filed with them based solely on an article from a tabloid magazine. Basically, the disappearance ended up in a tabloid, and he shows Scully Mulder's folder about the disappearance of his sister Samantha, and how Mulder believes it was due to her being abducted by aliens, and she never returned. And hence his interest in all of this. Later, when Mulder and Scully meet to talk, Scully is obviously her usual scientific self and wants to know why. And he starts putting the pieces together about how this person, Darlene Morris' daughter, had gone missing, and that she was a member of a Girl Scout troop in the same place from the 1960s. So they travel out there. They meet with Miss Morris. The son, her kid, is writing down a series of things that he's apparently picking up from the television, which is a binary sequence, zeros and ones. And he's claiming that he's getting a message from the static on the television screen. Mulder sends the code away to be analyzed, and what ends up happening is, and they talk to the sheriff, and he tells the agents that Ruby was a runaway and a juvenile delinquent, and then they meet a young woman. They get a note, and a young woman basically says, "Hey, here's the thing. Her boyfriend got her pregnant, and they were going to run away together." And they find out that Greg's the guy, the boyfriend, and they find that Greg works at this bar in nearby. So they go to the bar and they try to see if he has been in, and he has not. His boss basically tells him that if you see him, he's fired. And he asks about UFOs because the bartender's like this big biker guy, has all these tattoos, and he's got a tattoo of UFO. And he asks, "Hey, do you believe in that stuff?" He's like, "Yeah." You ever heard about getting a third degree sunburn in the middle of the night? And he pulls back his hair, and he has all of his ears all mutilated and cooked almost, which is interesting. Anyway, so they go to investigate at the lake where they went, and Mulder finds some sand had turned into glass, and that the tops of the trees had all been burned by massive heat. Scully posits that it was probably due to an electrical storm, not due to a UFO. And Mulder sees a wolf, and they go and they follow it kind of back, and they find a shallow grave with a body in it, and the body they find is Greg's body. This leads to them finding out that Tessa shot and killed Greg, and that she was pregnant with Greg's kid. It wasn't Ruby that got pregnant, it was her. Meanwhile, the code's gotten back, and apparently it's got all sorts of wacky stuff in it. uh, the the NSA comes in and they want to know where he got it from, and he's like, "I'm not telling you where I got it from." And they eventually tell him what it's all about, how it's a defense satellite code or something like that, and how upon further analysis, there's a lot of other stuff in there, just pieces of it, not the whole thing, but like a lot of stuff, and they want to know where it's coming from, and it's literally just this kid writing messages he's hearing from the television. So later on, Darlene just asks them to leave them alone unless they can find her daughter, which is a fair. That's all she wanted to begin with. And what ends up happening is they end up seeing the car pulled off, their camper pulled off to the side of the road at night. Presumably, she went to go look for Ruby. And they find Darlene, and she's like wounded on the ground. And he goes to look, and Scully stays with her, and Mulder goes forward to find Kevin, who's the son. And he finds Kevin, and there's this bright light that comes up. But it turns out it's just the bikers, and they all ride by. And Kevin says that she's back. And then there's Scully calls for him, and they find Ruby. And then they bring Ruby back to the hospital, and they stay by, like, Kevin's by her side and whatnot, and he tells Ruby that they know about what happened, and she can't really say anything. She says she's not allowed to. And they want to ask her more questions, but she's obviously not in a good state to be talked to about this sort of thing. She's very weak. And her mother basically says it's best for everyone if we just leave this as it is. Mulder says she'll need to know the truth someday. And the mother counters with, "The truth's only brought me pain, so I don't really care." Um, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. Um, well, it ends with Scully listening to a hypnotic regression of Mulder, recalling the night his sister vanished. And Mulder sitting looking at a picture of his sister. Because this whole case reminds him very much of his sister. And there's the episode. That's pretty much it in summation. Again, this is kind of like the pilot in a lot of ways. It's bringing Mulder to basically his roots, the reason why he does what he does. The problem with that is the agents themselves are witnesses to events. They are not truthfully participants in events. Although they did manage to do more in this case because they did manage to catch a murderer tangentially, but still that's something. It's a little bit better. All in all, I'm only going to give this one a 5 out of 10 because it is very important for the development of Mulder's character. But other than that, it's a very generic episode. You never get to see anything of what happens. It's just occasionally there's light and people vanish. Not even a lot. It's just the once. So you don't get any of that interesting stuff. There's no deep throat in this episode. It's I guess you would hazard to call it a myth arc episode because it deals with aliens and abduction, but it doesn't deal with the shadowy government conspiracies or anything like that. So I don't really know how I'd classify. I guess I classify it as part of the myth arc because it is part of Mulder's kind of story. That being said, other than that development, there's not a lot to it. It's certainly an okay episode, but again, not a lot to it. So 5 out of 10. Check it out. It's good for the development on Mulder, but other than that, it's very kind of meh. Alright, folks.